Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is, What's So Funny? A very, very serious discussion about laughter and humor. And John, I would appreciate if when you refer to this episode, and for those people who are listening to this episode, if you refer to it, try to give a little gravitas to that second very, because it's there for a reason.
Yes, I know. You pick your words very carefully, and I know with that second very, that means let's not dick it. This is time to really. You know what? I live in Los Angeles, and I love running into comedy writers who think it's like curing cancer. There's nothing more fun than
very serious.
Telling you a joke.
You can't laugh about humor.
Yeah, right. Weirdly, a lot of the people you pitch comedy to out here have no sense of humor.
That is weird.
Which I never understood. Why would
it's so serious? The business is so serious. There's so much money
serious. Yeah. Okay, that was funny. Good.
Yeah. I remember back in the 70s when sitcoms would have a very special episode. And that was like your clue in that, like, they were going to talk about social issues or something. It was
right.
For a kid, it was a clue into, like, don't watch this one. It's not going to be funny. They're going to very
prepare
special
to be bored.
Maud.
Maud had an abortion.
I know.
Remember that? Isn't that crazy?
Oh.
Maud had an abortion. Man,
it was a two-parter, right?
That? Yes. Can you imagine pitching that episode now?
Like, Jesus. Where are the jokes? Where are the jokes?
Yeah. Can you imagine
one of the girls
on Friends having an abortion? That would have never happened. Never in a million years.
A joke every other beat. Every other beat would have to be a joke. At the clinic. Oh, this is hilarious.
DNC, I thought you said run DMC.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a joke in there somewhere.
We'll put it to the table. Before we get started, though, I do have some business I want to take care of.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. And that is recently.
Are you about to give me notes? You about to give me notes?
Didn't you get the email? I thought we would take care of this before this episode.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I recently Googled our show. Sometimes you Google yourself.
Jesus. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
God, I never Google myself. I looked on IMDb. You know how they have those comments at the bottom of I accidentally looked at myself on IMDb, and at the bottom, the first comment said, "Not funny, bad actor." I was like, Jesus.
It's like, was that the only one?
No, there were more underneath that were positive, but it didn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually don't like to look at any reviews or anything, anything you do.
No.
Or we do. But
never.
The thing is, I Googled our show, Intro to Anthro with two humans, and then I put in YouTube. And we popped up. Our show did come up.
Excellent.
But down at the bottom,
at
the bottom, there was a banner ad for the movie Dumb and Dumber. So it's like one of those where it's like, if you like these guys, you'll also like Dumb and Dumber.
Okay. And
it may have been a fluke, but I'm like, it's not Neil deGrasse Tyson, not Carl Sagan or Bill Nye the Science, not even like Mr. Whoopi from Tennessee Tuxedo. It was like Dumb and Dumber. We Dumb and Dumber. And I'm just,
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
I don't know. We do one episode on King Tut's mummified penis, and so it's like we're over in the Dumb and Dumber.
I thought of you the other day because I was I saw a prehistoric, or no, it wasn't prehistoric. It was a skeleton of a bear, full scale skeleton in a shop, and it had the penis bone. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
My
Now
friend
that
was
you're
like,
aware
"What's
of them,
that?" And I'm like, "Believe it or not, there's a penis bone."
you can make a tool out of that thing.
Yeah, you sure can.
Yeah.
Boy, can you.
So anyway, I don't know if it just made me think of like, I don't know what people are saying about this show, but the algorithm is bringing up Dumb and Dumber along with us. And
Well,
I
it's
don't know,
also
maybe,
your algorithm that's tailored to you.
yeah.
So who knows what else you've been searching on Google?
I was wondering if Darwin was around. Like, what Darwin, it would be like, if you love Charles Darwin, you'll love Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, or something.
Oh my god! Remember that streaming channel on NBC called CISO?
No.
It was
What
on
was that?
NBC. It was for about a nanosecond. And if you see this, you'll also see this or something. CISO, something like that. But it
Really?
was all about that. You'd watch something and it would tell you what to watch next.
Okay.
I pitched them
So,
and they thought they were the new HBO.
really?
Yeah, they were so certain.
Yeah. Everybody's certain, aren't
They're
they?
like, look, your
Aren't
name is CISO. All right.
they? What's it like? SCESO or
I
something?
can't
Or
even
what?
remember. I think it was SEE. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
see this, you'll also want to see that. It was something like that.
CISO.
I couldn't even figure it out.
Yeah. Sounds like a neurological disorder or something. He's got CISO. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I just want to get that out of the way. Just something
Good
for us
work.
to be aware of.
Yes. Let's get this going. Let's gravitas this up.
Yeah.
All
A
right.
very, very serious discussion about laughter and humor. So recently in The Guardian, I saw an article about a group of scientists, 5 scientists in Melbourne, Australia. And they had participated in a program called the Steam Room. And what the Steam
Oh
Room
boy.
is, the Steam Room was a program where these scientists took stand-up and improv classes.
No.
And the purpose of the program was to find out if you can teach somebody to be funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I know the answer.
Well, we'll get to, because you're a stand-up and you also teach improv. So
yeah, and this may be counter to my my career, but the answer is a big. Well, you tell me scientifically. Well, can you?
Okay. Well, I don't know. Let's look at it and see, and then maybe after we discuss a little bit, then we'll come back and see if we can do it or not.
Sounds good.
I don't know, but what they were doing is they were trying to see if teach these scientists to present their research or their field of study in a 4-minute stand-up set, in a way that would appeal to a wider audience, which I love.
God. I wish I were in that class.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic.
And the guy who started it is named Luke Stellar. He's a PhD in astrobiology. And I love Stellar. Like your name.
Of course.
What would my
What are you going to do?
What would I get? McCray. I'd be cray-cray. I'd be crazy for the rest of my life. I wouldn't have to work.
We should call you cray-cray from now on.
Or Lehr. Like what job would you get? Lear Jets. You would like Lear Jets or but he came up with the idea to present science to a wider audience, and the show was co-produced by comedians Rue Hallwalla and Tom Stevenson in Melbourne. Okay. And the headliner was a guy named Dr. Carl Kruszelnicki. And Dr. Carl he's like a science guy. He's like the Bill Nye the Science Guy. He's a science commentator and presenter, well known in Australia. He was the headliner, so a lot of people came. They had Kirsten Banks, who was an astrophysicist, PhD student, God. Diva Timbra, who was a drag queen and wildlife biologist, which I would have loved to have seen.
What? Oh my God. This sounds like an amazing show.
Yeah.
And we need to get these people on our show. We need to interview some of these people.
That's what I'm thinking. I would love to talk to them about it. Because if you look at the photographs of the show, because the article had photographs, full house, people laughing hysterically. So it looks like it was a great show. And, but
is there video? No video.
Maybe.
And
we'll have to go online
to dig in a little. If we find it, we'll put it in the notes.
But I would love to like get a hold of them because this is
Mm.
exactly what we do, which is trying to
Yeah.
present science in a wider audience or in a different format, I think.
Yep. Yeah, I
And
agree.
but this article got me thinking about laughter and humor. And why did humans start laughing? And why do we find things funny?
So great.
Yeah.
And what
And
did you
so
figure it out? Because I am dying with curiosity.
I don't know. I don't
I've
know.
spent my whole life pursuing this, and I have no idea why.
You know, the best thing about doing this podcast is I get to look into things, or we get to look into things that we don't know anything about. And it's so
Yeah.
freeing just to be like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to read
Yeah.
up on it and say, I don't know.
Yes,
So,
that's where my sort of spiritual journey has taken me.
yeah.
I have relaxed into the I don't know. I don't want to
Yeah.
know why there was a Holocaust. I don't know, and I
Yeah.
don't want to know why, the universe would allow that to happen. I
Yeah.
mean, I know why there was a Holocaust, but I'm saying why would if there is a God, why would God let the Holocaust happen? I'm very comfortable in the I don't know, and I will never know,
It's great.
and I
Yeah.
don't need to know. I don't need to know anymore.
I think that's hard for a lot of people. Like, if your brain's not
Yes.
wired that way, it's very hard to
Yes.
be in the I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it took a lot of drug abuse, a lot of brain cells to die in order for me. But it is
And now
much
you're
better to be
peaceful.
dumb. And that's why Dumb and Dumber came up.
Yeah. Maybe that's it.
That's the key. The key is to be stupid.
I should. I'll look in and I'll type in like Galileo or Copernicus or something and see who comes up. Who comes up with them if they get Dumb and Dumber or not?
Cable Guy.
Yeah, those guys. Those guys were the Dumb and Dumber of their age. I think.
Yes,
That's
they
the way people
were.
look at it.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Where does laughter come from? So anthropologists who have studied laughter think that it developed from a play vocalization and facial displays in early primates, or even in primates that currently exist, like apes, chimps, monkeys.
Interesting.
Yeah, so apparently chimps and apes love wrestling. They love chasing each other,
Mm-hmm.
and
They
they love
love
being tickled.
and throwing poo. They
And
like to
throwing
throw
poop as
poo,
well.
which is the same thing. I mean, there's a very fine line between throwing poo and being funny. Let's
Yeah,
be honest.
it's
They're
a
basically
metaphor.
the same thing. Yeah, they're essentially the same thing. You can draw a line of connection between the two.
Yeah. So Diane Fossey, even in Gorillas in the Mist, she would describe how gorillas would tickle each other.
Mm.
so, so I don't
Yes.
recommend this for people because
Yeah, don't
to
tickle a
me like
gorilla.
because a chimp
Mm.
is essentially you have the body and superhuman strength of a convict with
Yes.
a 2-year-old's brain.
Yes. Why people are surprised when a chimp will freak out and, rip somebody's face off, literally
Yeah.
rip
Yeah.
somebody's face off. And then people are like, no, they're cute. I want one as a pet, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Crazy,
Yeah.
just crazy.
At a
They'll
certain
rip your
point
face. They'll
it's
rip the skin off your skull. And
yeah,
they've done it.
I know.
Leave them alone. Stay
We have to
away.
do an episode on people who have tried to raise chimps as humans because it's very
God,
fascinating. I've read about it before.
it is. And teaching them sign language and just all of it.
Yeah. And at a certain day, it's like, that's
No,
superhuman.
there's only two things a chimp should be doing: living in the jungle or
Yeah.
being shot up into space in a rocket. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all they're good for.
Have you ever said they love smoking? They love smoking cigars.
They
Have you ever seen
do. Yes, I do. And it makes
Yeah.
total sense as a former smoker, and I know you are too.
Yeah.
God, wasn't that the best thing in the world?
Yeah. There's
You
nothing
were
like.
a great smoker, by the way.
I love smoking.
You loved it, and you even shifted to the 100s so
Yeah.
that you'd have more tobacco.
Yeah, just to
I
enjoy
remember
it
when you
longer.
made that shift to the 100s. I'm like, is he smoking a 100?
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And you're like, hey, I get an extra couple of
Yeah, a
puffs.
couple
I'm like,
few
you know
drags
what?
in there. Yeah.
That guy's smart. Guy's got a good idea going.
It takes a lot. You have to get over. People stare at you. You pull out 100. When you first lied, and it's like,
Yes. Yeah. I was your best friend, and I stared at you. I was like, "What's he doing with a 100?"
Tickling and laughter is one of the ways babies first communicate. Probably they start by crying, and then afterwards, the next thing is laughing. I think it comes around 4 months.
Oh my God. And it hits you deep when my kids laugh for the first time. Oh my
Really?
God. Just, oh my God.
You just want the
deep.
laughs, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want the laughs. It's all about you, about the audience. Just want the laughter.
But just their laugh is there's something very deep in my brainstem that's being triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we grow older, we grow out of the enjoyment of being tickled.
Example, yeah, it becomes torture.
Yeah. Do you like being tickled now?
God, no. Well, I haven't been tickled by anybody in a hell of a long time. Oh, that's not true. My son tries that. For some reason, I'm ticklish between my toes. Although I wouldn't call it ticklish. It's more just really annoying I don't even know what it is. But I don't like people sticking their fingers between my toes. And my son knows that and will occasionally do it while I'm sleeping or something. The son of a bitch. My son delights in torturing me. Both of my kids. They just love it. They love to see me annoyed or in pain.
Yeah.
It delights them.
So it'll come in when you're sleeping, like
scaring me. They love to scare the crap out of me. They just love it.
Yeah, I was thinking that as I was researching that, like, you don't see grown men chasing each other around, tickling each other, like after dinner or something. At a certain point that ends.
You do. There are some clubs in LA where you will see that. But no, not out in public.
Yeah, I thought during a business meeting or something, like, hey, just like give your boss a good tickle, and like, hey. But at a certain point, we stop that.
Yeah.
And when chimps wrestle, for example, or they play fight and tickle each other, they have something called the play face. And what the play face is your mouth is open, or the chimp's mouth is open. They cover the upper teeth, stick out the lower teeth.
Look,
and then they pant. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's supposed to... I
feel like I just nailed it there.
Yeah, you really did.
I think I just nailed it.
That's your play face. You got your play face on. Yeah. And what that does is that communicates to the other chimp that this isn't serious. This isn't real aggression. I'm just playing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so Darwin noted similarities between that play face that a chimp gets and what humans get when they laugh. And if you do, if you think about our characteristic laughter of like ha 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 ha, it's like that panting. It's like that.
Yes, you're right.
So,
and some people laugh like that.
Yeah,
you get the raspy. That one.
But you see the similarities. That's like Robert Provine, who's a neurobehavioral scientist who's really studied laughter. He says that our laugh is more like an animal call than it is like a human part of speech, for example.
Totally agree. It's something much, it's pre-speech. It's something really deep in us. And that's why we pay money to feel it, to do it. There's something so gratifying about laughing. I mean, when you laugh deep, like you make me laugh deep. You have made me hurt. Being around you I literally come home and my core it hurts. There's something about that is so fantastic.
I really love it. It's, they talk about the runner's high, but I'd say there's like a laughing high or something where you laugh and laugh and laugh and you get done and you just feel physically exhausted.
I've often wondered, like, why have I dedicated my life just to get a bunch of people I don't really know make this guttural animal noise? I mean, what the hell is that?
Have you ever Do you have an idea of why? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I mean, the quick answer is that, I have insecurities. I want to be liked. There's all of that, but there's something else too. There's something deep down that's actually more, more positive. It's more of a like,
yeah,
I want you to feel good, and that makes me
right.
feel good.
Which I think we will get to it because basically laughter it's a social act.
Hmm.
Because again, you're communicating to, like we were just saying, like non-aggression, but it's also it's a way to symbol to the group that we're all part of a group.
Yes. Yes. And that's when you get the biggest laughs. When
Yeah,
you say something that everybody goes, "Oh my god, me too."
right, right.
And that's what gets the biggest laughs. Those peanut things are so hard to open on airplanes. Am I
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And everybody's like, "Yes, me too.
Yeah,
I can't get those things open."
there's a communion that happens, and maybe that's what
Hmm.
it is that you're feeling, is that part of
Yeah.
that social act.
Yeah.
Um, in most laughs, what Provine talks about is he'll talk about like most laughs start out loud, obviously, because we have a lot of
Hmm.
air, and then there's a
Hmm.
decrescendo to the laugh, so it like diminishes after all the air comes in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the
Had to
other thing
test
he
it.
talks about is most of our labs, they're homogeneous in sound, meaning that it's mostly ha 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 or ho ho ho, whatever it is, but it's rarely like ha ho ha ho ha ho, So
Yeah.
it's like,
When people have a crazy laugh, everybody notices.
right.
Crazy laughs and crazy sneezes, you can't not notice that. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
"What? Did you just
Yeah.
laugh? That's your laugh?"
Yeah. And he talks about we need to have, there has to be a stereotypical base to a laugh,
Mhm.
meaning that
Yeah, makes sense.
because it's a social communication. So if someone
Yeah.
has such an outlandish laugh that we couldn't recognize it being a laugh, then we as a part of that group wouldn't understand when they were trying to communicate to us that like, hey, this isn't really aggressive. I'm having fun here or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the other thing he talks about is because it's a social act, people rarely laugh out loud when they're alone. So
Hmm.
you may laugh or you may find something funny, but he says most research shows that the majority of the time when someone's alone, they don't laugh out loud.
Yes, I think that's changed slightly because of technology. Because I will see people in looking on their phones, and they'll have headphones in, and so they'll hear recorded laughter. Like they'll be
Right.
watching a stand-up show, and they'll hear recorded laughter, and that tricks them into thinking they're not alone, and they
Right.
laugh. So you'll see somebody laughing in an airport looking at their
Yeah.
phone,
Yeah.
and they don't know it.
I would say too that there's an implied other person communicating to you in there. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, like there's humor that you're watching something that's trying to make you laugh. So there is a connection, an implied connection there. I'm talking about
Yeah.
if you were at home alone, for example, and you came out and you tripped down the stairs, you might find it funny, but chances are you wouldn't laugh out loud at yourself because
Yeah,
there would
that's
be
true.
nobody
That's
there
true.
to communicate how.
I laugh at myself all the time, but you're right, not outside, not
Yeah,
out loud. But I do laugh. I'm like, "Oh Jesus, you idiot!" Something
yeah,
like that. Just like, "My God, look at you." But
yeah,
I won't laugh rarely
out loud. That's the
out loud.
difference. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
He says that that's also the reason why it's very hard to tickle yourself. I know we're coming back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
tickling, but
That's impossible. That's like
yeah.
the tingler. You ever tried the tingler? The thing
Oh,
you
that
put on
thing
your
with on the
head?
head? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, with the wires. Nobody
yeah,
can tingle themselves. That doesn't
yeah.
it you can't it is impossible to self-tingle. You can only other tingle.
Yeah, and he thinks it's because you again, you know what's coming and you know that it's not really aggressive. So when
Right,
you know
and
it's not really aggressive.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
But I think also you know where your finger is gonna land precisely on your body,
Yeah.
because and so there's something about not knowing exactly where the tickle's coming from precisely adds to the
Right.
tickle.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's a reflex. Like the tickle is a reflex to what's perceived as an aggressive attack on you.
Yeah,
And so
the tickle is a weird thing, man. It's a
yeah,
weird thing because it does make us laugh. But I mean, I guess, are we laughing because we want the tickler to know that we're not upset, that we know that what they're doing is not aggressive?
right. And they
Jesus.
should be laughing to us as well, like part of their laugh.
Mhm.
Because if a stranger came up and started tickling you,
Yeah.
it would be an entirely different reaction than if someone you knew, like your kids or
Right, you're
somebody, tried
still
to tickle
feeling the same input,
you.
but it's not
Yeah,
funny at all when a
right,
clown comes up and tickles you, a scary clown with a bloody
right.
knife.
Exactly.
Some
Uh, Provine says that one thing you can try, sometimes you can trick your brain and do contralateral tickling, which is you take your right hand and try to tickle your left foot. So
What?
going across that meridian in the brain, that hemisphere in the brain, sometimes you
I'm
can.
doing it right now.
Are you really getting anything
Yeah.
with that?
I don't know. It feels the
Are your
same.
shoes off?
Yeah,
Take your shoes off.
I do. I have them off. I can't pod. I can't pod with my shoes on. You know
Just
that.
try to close your eyes and try to do it. Does that work?
I mean, I guess it feels slightly different, but that could just be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, okay. I'm
It's very
in.
hard.
I
It's
think
very
there's
hard.
something there.
Sometimes you're aware of it now, though. Like if
I
you
know.
were to
I know.
reach over and
Yeah.
yeah.
Fortunately, I'm an idiot, so I'll forget most of this after we finish, and then I'll try it.
Just try to leave a note. Tickle left foot with right hand.
I have to tattoo myself like that movie,
Yeah.
Tickle
Left foot.
tickle left foot with right hand.
The other thing that's interesting is studies have found that in normal conversation, it's usually the speaker who laughs more than the listener. And in fact, the speaker can laugh up to 46% more, like they did a study and found.
Boy, I know that. Man, I've been on stage knowing that. Believe me, I'm the only one laughing.
Well,
You're saying it's going well, right?
Yeah.
And they're all just sitting there with their arms crossed.
Well, they talk about that's why it's so hard to really study laughter in the context of stand-up, because stand-up is different. Usually the stand-up doesn't want to laugh at their own jokes. And the audience is encouraged to laugh more.
Yeah, that's why stand-up comedy is so brutal. It's just the Gladiator of our era. It's like people who watch NASCAR. There's a part of them that are, looking for the crash to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's just human behavior. The same thing with stand-up. It's like, this guy's failing. And that's
there's
almost
nothing
more
worse.
Interesting. And that's the thing they talk about. Oh my God, that third guy was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with bad reviews, don't you think?
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, friends will search you out for a bad, let you know that they read a bad review. A good review, you never hear from them. Hear from them.
No. And they'll always bring it up. You okay? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, that review in the New York Times. Wait, I hadn't read it.
Yeah.
What review?
Just don't say anything to your friend.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's not a friend, by the way.
Yeah. That's always the same, like, ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry
boy, shh. I didn't agree with them at all.
Yeah.
Well, then shut up. Don't tell me about it. I don't need
By the way, nobody reads the New York Times. They just buy that thing for the coupons. All right. So I wouldn't even worry about
they just
getting
read that
panned
book
by the New
review
York
to make
Times.
everybody think that they read all those books.
Yeah. If you don't want to read the book, you just want to bring out what it's about.
Boy, how's that? That new book looks very interesting. Yeah. You read it? No. Oh. So what are we talking about then?
The other thing scientists talk about is the difference between a Duchenne laugh or Duchenne smile, Duchenne, and a non-Duchenne smile or non-Duchenne laugh.
What? What's that?
Yeah. Well, it's named after a French neurologist or scientist named Guillaume Duchenne, who was
I love it when you speak the French.
Just names. You just want me to read the phone
it's like
book
a quick
from.
it's like a quick foot massage.
Yeah, I take you away, take you to Paris. You're at a
Yep, you do.
cafe.
Yeah, yeah,
A
for
guy
just a
next to you
moment.
is reading the phone book.
And
Uh,
I've got a lit Marlboro Light 100 in my hand.
oh God, that was good. Nothing better than being at a
Oh,
cafe with a coffee and a cigarette.
oh, God. Now let's start again. You
Yeah.
want to do it?
Oh
Let's start
yeah.
smoking again. We can do it.
Oh
We
yeah.
quit once. How hard can
It's
it
fine.
be?
Yeah. Once you control addictions, you could just stop them at any time.
Yeah. Now that we know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. This time I won't need it. It'll just be for fun. This time's just for fun. I don't need it.
Right. Right. One for fun.
But a Duchenne laugh is what we call the authentic laugh. It's where
Mm,
it involves around the eyes. It's like the genuine, authentic laugh.
yeah. Yeah.
And the non-Duchenne laugh or non-Duchenne smile is one that's forced. And so we sometimes call it faked, or, the one where people are trying to laugh. Right. Yeah, you're
Mine,
forcing that.
I had a partner who she had the best fake laugh, and whenever we'd show cuts of stuff that we were, to the executives who would never laugh,
Yeah.
she would laugh, and it was infectious. The
Really?
McCray brothers are like that. You get
Yeah.
3 McCrays in an audience, and you're home free.
You get my
You
brother
know what I mean?
David in the my
Oh,
brother
David
David
was
had it.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, because he was loud and, oh god,
Yeah.
he was so good. The DeLuise, brothers are like that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I did a show where Dom DeLuise, David, and Michael were all in the same audience,
Oh.
and it was
Oh.
pure gold. You were there. It was one of
Yeah,
our,
yeah.
lectures. Was it remember that?
Yeah. Home
Oh,
free. Home
yeah,
free when those guys
easy
started laughing.
living.
Yeah.
Easy living.
Yeah. Brilliant. So Duchenne laughter actually the genuine laughter starts in a different part of the brain. It's in the
Really?
subcortical or brainstem regions.
Interesting.
Whereas the
So it's deep
non-Duchenne,
down.
yeah.
Okay.
And non-Duchenne's coming from the prefrontal, premotor area. So you're
Uh-huh.
trying to make it happen.
Uh-huh. One
And
is unconscious and one has
right,
more yeah, your awareness. You're making it happen.
right.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's so true.
And they say it's interesting that you say about your partner, because they say it's very hard
To
to
fake it.
fake a Duchenne laughter,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
subconsciously know that that's not a true laugh. Somehow we're picking up
Right.
that cue.
Yeah. 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 It's true. It is rare, and I knew it, and she knew it. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, we have a secret weapon.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's what they say. They say that Duchenne laughter is contagious, definitely, because it's
Mm.
almost like a animal vocal cry and response. Like I'm
It's
crying
yeah.
out, and
It
you're
is like
responding with
it's
laughter.
so close to crying, isn't it? Laughing and
Yeah,
crying are very close to each other.
yeah. And the other thing that they found is that the size of the audience increases laughter. So if you're with a lot of people laughing, most likely you're going to want to laugh
Yes,
as well.
that we know. I mean, I've done shows for 4 people, and
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, nobody
that's not
laughs. Nobody laughs
no,
at that point.
no. And then I've done
Yeah.
shows for, 1,200 people, and it's yeah. Oh my god, is it different?
Yeah, it's hard. You see how, because laughter, again, it's a social act, and by all of us laughing, it's signifying that we're all in the same group.
Yes. And it
So,
reflects when you're on stage, it reflects back to you. It makes
yeah.
you more delighted with what you're doing. It's
Right.
because and
Right.
it becomes this snowball effect that's just amazing.
Yeah, and you have the in group and the out group. So if everybody's laughing with you, you're all in the same group. And if people are laughing at you or not laughing at
Oh,
all when you're a stand-up, then suddenly
oh,
you're on the out. You're on the out group.
oh,
You're in the out group.
been there, been there.
All of us
I
have.
have been on the out.
Yeah.
Oh, I did a show at Cafe Largo on Christmas Eve that I will never forget.
What's it bad? Was it?
It was just bad, and then I don't know what happened, but it just got away from me, and it was yeah, it was horrid. Just
Was it
horrid.
just you, or was it a whole
Yeah,
bunch
I
of
was
people?
doing stand-up, and I was trying some new stuff, which,
Oh, yeah.
and, and then I tried to go to my old stuff just to try to save it, and no,
Yeah.
nothing. It was just let the ship sink, get off stage. I walked off stage, outside, into my car, and drove away.
It never happened. It never
It
happened.
never happened.
It was it the audience? You think the audience was tough, or do you think it was?
Who knows? I mean, yeah, I think it was just a horrible 3-car crash. The
Yeah.
audience, the people who went before me had a different kind of Cafe Largo in those days was more storytelling, but I think the comedians who went before me were not. They were like
Yeah.
classic comedians. And so the
Yeah.
audience was kind of in that mode. So then I came on and did my thing, but that's just one aspect. The other part of it was I just didn't do a good job,
Yeah.
and that what I was talking about wasn't funny. And it just all snowballed and just became a horrible, horrible evening for
I think
everybody.
it's interesting that almost immediately if the audience is going to
Yes.
be with you or against you. Like you could
Yes.
feel it. You
Yes.
could feel
You
it if
can
it's a good
feel it.
audience or bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you got to roll your sleeves up and save it, and you can save it. You
Yeah.
can turn it around.
Yeah.
But man, mm-mm.
Yeah. Sometimes you think about the Rat Pack when I see footage of Frank Sinatra and all those Dean Martin and all those guys. It doesn't look that funny, but the fact that they were having such a good time doing it up on
Yes.
stage that people
That
were
is
just
the
willing to
most
sit there. Yeah.
exactly. That's the most important thing is not what the jokes are, but how you're delivering them, who you are. Letting
Yeah.
them know who you are through your comedy is the key.
Right. Right. Ooh. So laughter, let's go ahead and get back on track here. So laughter is often associated with humor and comedy, but they aren't necessarily synonymous. Like we've shown, like so you can laugh when you're
Mhm.
tickled, which is like a reflex.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so the question then becomes, well, what happens when we hear something that's funny? We're not being physically touched. How is that
Mhm.
making us laugh? And philosophers have come up with several different theories of humor. And one of the theories is the superiority theory of humor.
Oh
And that
boy.
is that the function of humor is to dominate others.
Yes, to feel smarter than.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So
I'm not an
you're
idiot
making
like
fun
that
of,
guy.
yeah,
Right.
you're making fun of other people.
I'm not Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's the
And
exact antithesis of the first kind of humor we're talking about where you go like, "Oh my god, that's me."
yeah. Yeah. But it's and that's probably the theory that's been around for a long time. Like Plato was the first person who proposed the superiority theory, and
Mhm.
he said that the purpose of humor was to belittle others. Uh, and in that way, he said that all humor has a victim, even self-deprecating
Mm.
humor. Even if you're making
Yes.
yourself
Okay.
the victim, you still have there's still a victim there. You know what I mean?
I buy that. I buy that.
Yeah.
We laugh at
Uh,
ourselves.
yeah. And I wonder about that because we're still trying to, I don't know, belittle ourselves to be part of the group that's not us. I don't know
Well,
what
I
the
think there's
reason would
something
be for that.
positive about it too. Like when you're able to laugh at yourself, it attacks your ego, it attacks your self-obsession a bit.
Yeah.
It makes you kind of recenter yourself and take some of the edge off of the self-importance we attach to,
Right.
which we have to
Right.
for survival, I guess. That's probably where it all comes from. But it's nice to have a bit of a relief from that,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Gives you a little breathing room in
Yeah,
something.
it's like a massage. It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
The other theory is the incongruity theory. And the incongruity theory says that humor, which is unpredictable, will make us laugh. So in other
See,
words,
that's so true. I mean, you watch any of those shows where guys get their balls bitten by a pit bull, or somebody falling off a
yeah,
step ladder.
yeah,
There's nothing, we're just surprised. Oh my God, we're just surprised. And I
yeah,
guess that's a combo of laughing at them as well.
yeah. I
You
think
get the
maybe
double
it's a
whammy.
combination. Yeah,
See, I think the jokes roll, and I think that like the first joke is more what you were talking about in the front of the head brain, like, oh my
yeah,
God, that's funny. And then if they follow up with another joke that you weren't expecting right behind it, that's the
yeah,
one that gets you down in the brainstem.
yeah.
Where it's like,
Interesting.
and then it's like you're not
Yeah,
even, you don't know that, yeah, there's less consciousness to it at that point. And the
yeah,
great comedians like Sam Kinison, classic example, could, just keep it going and going, and you're just like dying and you don't even know why
yeah,
you're
yeah.
laughing. It's
He's
just you're
hitting
caught
all
up in
those
it.
different levels, the superiority and then the incongruity or what.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they talk about like when we're telling a joke, for example, we're setting up as the person listening to it. We're hearing the setup and we're beginning to formulate what logically will follow or what should
Yes.
logically follow. And then at the last minute, the punchline is what takes us away from that. And it's
Yeah.
that incongruity between what we thought was going to happen and what
Yeah.
actually happened that makes us laugh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
uh,
that's why silly humor is important.
yeah, yeah.
We diminish that kind of humor, but it's so crucial
Yeah,
to
I
comedy.
love silly humor. Silly humor still kills me. It still kills with
Yeah,
me.
if you're caught up in the logical side of comedy too much, you're missing out. You're missing out.
Yeah, and Jerry Soules, who's a neurobehavioral scientist, he said one time that if a joke were genuinely logical, then it would be a puzzle, not a joke.
That's great. I love
Yeah,
that.
because
I
you
love
want
that.
it to be a joke. It's supposed to be
Right.
incongruous to make you. It's not supposed to be logical there at the end. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. It's making fun of reality in a lot of
Yeah,
ways, isn't it? It's like reality, we see it all the time, and here's something that's that's where the art, I guess, comes into it. It's,
yeah,
we're these temporal beings, out in the world, all kind of agreeing on what reality is, and then somebody's able to go, wait, what about this? And you're like, oh my God,
yeah,
that's so funny.
yeah. And I think I have a quote down here by Kierkegaard who's saying exactly what you're saying.
I cannot believe Kierkegaard had a sense of humor. There, there is
He
no
said,
way.
well, he said, wherever there is life, there is contradiction. And wherever there is contradiction, the comical is present, which is exactly what you were just saying. Is like,
God,
yeah,
Kierkegaard and I on the same page.
yeah.
God, I could
Google
not read
you
that
two and see
guy.
what comes up. Put Kierkegaard in there, Lehr and Kierkegaard. Suddenly, Dumb and Dumber doesn't show up.
I'll tell you this. I never once laughed while reading Kierkegaard. Not once.
So,
That guy's hard to
uh,
read.
I also read one time that comedy is very similar to horror in that way, because horror is the same way. We begin to, in a horror story, we're set up for one way that things are going and we expect it to end logically, and then horror takes us off in a different way.
Yes. Horror, sadness,
Yeah,
sad, crying, laughter, they're all connected. Fright, all of that stuff, because you're not expecting it. You're not
yeah,
expecting it.
yeah,
And we humans like that for some reason. We like to hate it.
right,
We like it in
right,
controlled environment, with the horror. You love the jump scare from a horror movie, and
yeah.
because almost immediately you realize, oh, I'm not in any danger,
And
so it's
I think
okay.
maybe that's what happens with comedy too, is that when it comes, it's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. There's a moment where there's a bit of anxiety, and then the
Yes,
laughter is the release of that anxiety.
yeah, I think that's one version of it.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
complex
yeah.
what
Uh,
makes us laugh.
from an evolutionary standpoint, some people have said, well, you know, in addition to being a way to decrease stress, laughter and humor within a group, uh, some people argue that there was a sense of humor in primates is a sign of mental health. And so
I
possibly that.
totally agree.
Do
If you
you?
can't laugh at yourself, I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why. I was in the shower. I think I may have brought this up on the
Yeah.
podcast, but I was in the shower thinking about a boss who had fired me. And I'm actually having, I go down the rabbit hole, right? I don't even
Yeah.
realize it. And I'm having
Yeah.
an argument with this guy, telling him everything I wanted to tell him when he fired me, right?
Yeah.
And then I realize I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
then I laugh at myself. And in realizing that, I laugh at myself and realize, because I see myself, I'm naked in the shower having an argument with
Right.
somebody who I knew 10 years ago. And I laugh. And that, totally takes me out of that moment of anger and
Right.
stress,
Right.
that memory. And
Interesting.
laughing at yourself, because like it's one thing, it's like when somebody cuts in front of you. When somebody cuts in front of you on the highway, you're pissed. That guy's a total fucking asshole, and you'd like to kill him. There's a part of you that just wants to kill him because he put you in danger.
Yeah.
But then when you do it, it's like an accident. Oops, sorry, I cut you off. I got to get somewhere, for you.
Yeah.
So if you can, when you get angry at that guy, if for a moment you can go, what's my version of that? You can laugh or recognize that, and it forgives him, but it also forgives you.
Yeah. And diffuses the stress of it, because God knows how that would end up, if you don't diffuse that.
So. Right. And many people don't. And if you can't laugh at yourself, if you can't find yourself to be funny, that's a serious problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like having problem pooping. It's a big problem. It's something you need to look at. It's not something just to slough off.
Oh, you can't get through life.
I just take myself very seriously. That's not good.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree with that. Anthropologists have something that they call a human production ability, or HPA. And that's the ability of somebody to make others laugh. And what they found in 2006 in a study was that both men and women valued having a good sense of humor. Like in general.
Well, they always say that women put that above looks, which is not true.
Or money. I think
or money. Yeah, it's not true. It is important, but it's not number one or number two or number three or number four.
Yeah, they say that women preferred men with high production ability, high humor production ability, with like a good sense of humor.
That, but out in the field, I'm out in the field, and I'm telling you, that ain't true.
Yeah, my shrink used to always tell me is like on dating sites, like women will lie about their age and their weight, and men will lie about their height and their income.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. But what was interesting to me in this is that whereas women preferred a sense of humor in a man, usually men preferred women who would appreciate their sense of humor.
There you go. That's it.
That's it. So it's like men want to be laughed at, you know what I mean? They want somebody who will laugh at their jokes. And you think about the class clown. Usually the class clown's like a young kid, male kid, in the class. They start early.
Yeah, because and women are like, why are you're talking about yourself? It's all about you. It's all about you. And they're like, yeah, I just need to know I'm okay.
Yeah.
Laugh at me. And
Yeah. Like there's they want that. Men want that.
Yeah.
Do you find, have you used sense of humor? I mean, you talk about like, out in the field, it doesn't, but do you find sense of humor in like social or work situations or anything
all like that? The time. It's all I do. It's the only skill I have. It's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find myself, when I'm in social situations and I'm nervous and I will be more outrageous and more humorous as a way to block intimacy. Like
Yeah.
so I'll use
Really?
it as a mask, occasionally. Yeah, I over the years I've seen myself do that, where I'll be really, really funny as a way to keep me from really having to be authentically in a conversation, because I'm
Really?
uncomfortable in some way. Yeah, I think, yeah,
That's inter
absolutely.
that's interesting
Like every
because usually
conversation I have with you is not real. I'm just,
I have to go back
you make
in.
me so nervous.
I'm going to have to start recording every conversation we have. And then I'll go back in and analyze it, be like, I don't
But
know,
then on
that
the
doesn't
other
seem like a
hand, yeah, but on the other hand, I use humor to be very intimate, to say
yeah,
things that I couldn't say, about myself too.
right. Right.
So it's weird.
Yeah, I find at work, for example, I like using humor to kind of really I could tell everybody, all my coworkers are really stressed out. So it's like a
Yeah.
way to like make people, hey, we're all in this together. Like I'll use
Yes.
the humor and laughter to kind of bring the tension down or like recognize what
Yes.
we're all going through.
That's
So
my most healthy use of my sense of humor. And
yeah,
I do that a lot. I do that a lot to make people feel it, my perception is they're not comfortable, and I help it
right,
use it to be
right,
like, hey, it all is well.
yeah.
Hmm.
Before we start wrapping up, I do want to talk about stand up, though, specifically stand up, because when I
Okay.
was researching this, I came across a lot of articles that were uh, just about stand up.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I know that now there's a lot of controversy about like what someone says something offensive in a stand up uh, set or routine at a club, and
Yeah.
a lot of people will turn around and go online and talk about it. And people always say like, well, comedians should be able to say whatever they want on stage, which I completely agree with. I completely agree with. Um, but it's also like other people should be able to say what they want to say as well in response to the
Yeah.
stand
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I went through and I found that there's an anthropologist named Raul Perez who wrote a lot back in the early 2010s about stand up and about
Hmm.
racism and about racism in a supposedly colorblind world. So, in other words,
Right.
now we're supposed to be, I mean, mind you, this is before the last few years and things that have
Right.
happened.
Right.
Um, but, we're supposed to be beyond race at this point, or people think that we're beyond race. And so he was looking
Yeah.
at how stand up could be used to reinforce racial stereotypes when we're supposed to be without racists now,
Uh-huh.
which
Interesting.
is,
That's I'm not I don't know. That just
yeah,
doesn't seem, first of all, it's not true. We're
yeah,
not beyond race by any means. In fact, I would argue we're just beginning to grapple with it
yeah,
in a real way, just beginning.
yeah,
That's like somebody who says, "Oh, I'm not racist." Yeah,
right.
I don't think you're seeing the bigger picture here.
Yeah,
And A and B, you're wrong. You are.
yeah,
You just don't. Yeah, you just can't admit that. Yeah, I mean, there's a real problem with comedy right now, a real issue,
yeah,
because we're kind of in this place of like, of being conscious of what we say and how that affects others, even though it wasn't intentional.
right.
How helpful is it to stereotype in a humorous way, and
Yeah,
make broad sort of jokes about groups of people, to make fun of them, is not welcome in a
right.
lot of places. And it's weird because the jester, was the only one who could make fun of the king,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then the king would laugh at the jester, and then everyone else in the kingdom would know, okay, the king's aware of our issues with him.
right.
It is like a way of communicating about society, in a slightly safer place, and
Yeah,
that has really diminished. And I understand why it has. It's just, I think we've also lost a lot. You look at the slap, the Oscar slap.
yeah, yeah,
classic. Here's a comedian making a joke about a woman,
Yeah.
a very, very famous woman, about her hair length,
Yeah.
not knowing that it's connected to such and such and such and such,
Right. Right.
her alopecia and everything else.
Yeah.
And the husband gets up and hits the comedian. So whoo, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know where that's headed. But it does seem that we're less willing as a society to laugh at ourselves. Uh, but how do you balance that with laughing at
Yeah.
others, and
Yeah.
making fun of others? And that's the problem.
Well, his writing is interesting because in 2008 he enrolled in a stand-up class in Los Angeles, and Perez is Hispanic.
That's
And
awesome.
he said most of the people in the class were white males, obviously, because you usually think
Yeah.
about stand-ups. He goes, there were a few females and there were a few people of color.
Right.
And what he found was that while the white members of the class were taught to tread lightly around race,
Yeah.
the comedians of color were taught to lean into it. So, in
Yes.
other words, they were told to embrace all the racial stereotypes. And he tells a story about one woman who's an African American woman who was a comedian in his class, one of the students. And she told a story about her mother. And the instructor said, give your mother a Southern black accent.
Mm.
And she said, well, that's not how my mother talks. And the instructor was like, trust me, it will be funnier if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, you have the comedians of color were being taught to like play to the stereotypes of what their white audiences would be expecting from a black actor.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quietly reinforcing stereotypes for the white members of the audience already.
And I think comedians are very aware, much more aware of this dynamic now.
Yeah.
That it's problematic, and that it fuels the flames of these darker issues.
Right.
And so my hope is that it'll force comedians to find more creative ways to make people laugh.
Right.
I just right now, the pendulum has swung so far that it's overshadowing stuff that still should be addressed, I think, that isn't being addressed because of fear of somebody coming up and slapping you,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, the other way, just real quick, the other way he talked about it for white comedians was to say, well, I'm making fun of everybody. I make fun of everybody. I make fun of like black people, white people, I make fun of myself. And so that gives like white performers a little space in there to go in and make racial jokes or racist jokes.
Exactly. And I think that it has been the case. And black people too. Black comedians too. White people, they know that stereotypes and addressing and making fun of stereotypes is going to get it's a lower common denominator sort of humor, and it's going to get the most laughs in the room. It's sort of like, when you have TV, when you have people, doing sitcoms that are so dumb, but they get the biggest audience, and you're trying to get the biggest audience to sell them all shampoo.
Yeah. It's the other thing which I would talk about is, and you mentioned it a little bit, but you have the predominant culture right now, the kind of Western European culture, is feeling comedy used to be a way for the people who were oppressed would make fun of people in power, like you were talking about with the court jester would make fun of the king.
Yes.
But now you have the predominant culture is feeling oppressed by, for example, political correctness.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the predominant culture feeling oppressed, then what jokes do they make to make fun of they go back to the same racist jokes that they always made fun of.
Yes.
So we're right back where we started. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah. So I'm all for comedians pushing the boundaries and saying whatever I feel like you should be able to say whatever you want.
Yes.
In the same sense, everyone should be able to say whatever they want about your stand up. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But it's just something to be aware of, that little iceberg, culturally, that iceberg of the stand up, of the humor, is just a little tip sticking above, and there's all that stuff below it that you have to be aware of.
Exactly. And I think that's where comedy can move into relationships, and so acting and comedy exists there in a way where you can communicate those nuances better than you can
Yeah.
as a stand-up who's just up there telling jokes.
Right.
And it's just bottom line, and except on rare occasions, it's not that sophisticated, and
Yeah.
it's not it's not nuanced. There are stand-ups who are able to do that, but for the most part, you're hitting one note.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact.
So I just want to say that you and I did a stage show together in Los Angeles, and I will say, remember, I would come out first, for example, before you came out, and I'd have some announcements. And there is nothing better than hearing an audience laugh at your whatever it is you've written or whatever you're doing. There is no better feeling in the world than hearing.
Yep.
And I remember, we've talked about it, like you kind of know immediately what the audience is going to be like when you first come out. And I remember one time I came out for one of our shows, and the lights come up. The show hasn't even started, and there's already an old guy in the front row fast asleep.
Yeah. Just it's like, people don't realize when they're in a live situation, we see you.
Yeah.
We see all of you. We see you.
Yeah.
You're on your phone, we see you. You're asleep, we see you.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
But he was already fast asleep. I was like, give us a chance to bore you at least. The show hasn't even started, you're fast asleep. And it was the one time I wrote the only setup joke, like setup punchline that I've ever written, based on that guy. And it was, why do old people go to the theater? So they don't have to sleep alone.
Oh, man.
So, John, in conclusion, back to our first question, do you think you could teach someone to be funny? I don't
know. I think it runs so much deeper than that. I think maybe a therapist could do it, but I just don't know. My answer is no.
Really?
Once you're funny, I can give, and you want to perform it and use it to communicate, in an art form, I can help you with that. But if you're somebody who has no sense of humor and no ability to, dig into that side of you, that sense of, if you've walled that off, there's some reason you've done that. And I think it's, it's so funny because we think of the mentally ill person who's someone who's laughing maniacally, but I think that person is probably less mentally ill than the person who can never laugh. The sociopath, who just can't tap into it. And man, I feel sorry for people like that who just take themselves so seriously. I don't know. I guess they don't know any different, but it just seems like a prison.
Yeah.
It seems like they're missing out on a big part of what it means to be a human.
Yeah, and I would say I completely agree with you. I think if, humor and laughing it's a form of social communication. Yeah. And if you can't do that, then I think there is some certain skills that you can develop. For example, like improv. I think you could teach improv, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as just finding humor in things, I think that entails so many other different processes that it's very hard just to teach someone to be funny,
Yeah, my gut is that we all are. And that because of whatever, trauma, ego, whatever, people wall it off on consciously.
Yeah.
And then over time it becomes deeply rooted where they just can't access that side of themselves.
Yeah. So I don't know. In conclusion, I guess I would say everybody, you try to laugh a little more. try to laugh a little more, smile a little more, make them real, make them do shin laughs, but don't.
Maybe when you laugh, just notice it. Maybe that's the thing, is just be a little bit of awareness of like, oh shit, that was funny to me.
And I'm communicating with somebody else. I'm making a connection with somebody else by my smile, by my facial expressions, by my vocalizations. I'm trying to make a connection with other people because that's how it evolved for us, I guess.
Overall, I think we could all use a little more embracing a little more of the silly, of the ridiculousness. I think that's an area that we could all work on as hominids.
Absurdity. Just embrace the absurdity of our situation and share that laughter with other people. I agree with that. Yeah, that's nice.
Hey, all right.
Well, anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this.
Yes, this is human number 2.
And this is human number 1. And again, if you have a question or a topic you feel humanity needs to know about, please feel free to reach out to us. And who knows, it may be the topic of a future episode. Absolutely. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and joining us. John, thank you so much. Always a laugh.
Thank you. Exactly. Love you, and see you next time.
Love you, dude. Bye.